Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar where I'm going to be walking you through how to stop throwing spaghetti at the proverbial diet wall. And full disclosure, I actually taught this webinar with a group of women, and unfortunately, I pressed record and then I pressed it again and I didn't press it again. So I'm re-recording this, so this will be a little bit more of a simplified version. I won't be as interactive as I was on the original, but I wanted to make sure that I had this for you. For those of you who registered and couldn't come, I promised the replay, so here it is. And also we're using this on YouTube and different ways to help you because every time I write these trainings, I always think about myself 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, when the new year would roll around and I would go and buy that brand new book and I would go clean out the pantry and I'd go and I'd print off all the cook recipes and the grocery lists, and I was organized. I'm an organized girl. But sticking to it and that all or nothing thinking, it just got me every time. And so when I record these, of course, now I have all this experience of working with so many different women and helping them have success. So I just am so grateful that I now have this knowledge, and it just brings me so much joy to help you to learn and to grow. So I want you to imagine that the two of us are sitting side by side and we're talking about what is your biggest struggle, with weight loss. Now, what brought you here? Why did you, of all the weight loss coaches in the world, what brought you to me and to this training? And so, does this sound familiar? You want to lose weight because you want to be happier, you want to trust yourself to change, you want to be able to move better in your body, you want to be more productive, you want to be proud of who you see in the mirror, and you just want to have more satisfaction in life. Well, one of the reasons I wrote this training was because I hate wasting time. I have 5 kids. I have lots of beautiful fabric. I have a gorgeous long arm machine. I have tons of books. I have so many. I live on Vancouver Island. It's beautiful. There's lots of hiking and running and exploring. I love living life. Kids play basketball. I love watching them, talking to my other kids that have now moved out. And so I hate wasting time. I hate it. And I am so sad about all the time that I wasted on things that don't work, processes that don't work. So many podcasts I listened to, so many books I read. Oh my goodness. I think I read like almost all the books in the library on weight loss. Crazy ones like eat an apple before every meal, like just crazy stuff. So I don't want you to waste any more time. Okay. So I want to show you why diets don't stick. I want to reveal the difference between treating symptoms versus getting to the root cause, your thinking and your feelings. I want to help introduce you to the 5 pillars, those really solid foundations of permanent weight loss, so you don't have to waste any more time. I want you to help you see that weight loss is a symptom of unaddressed emotional issues. And I want to show you that you don't have a food problem, you have a feelings problem. So one of the challenges is we're putting a lot of time and effort into a solution that actually doesn't work. Okay? So it's like I painted my whole deck. This is so frustrating. And they sold me the wrong paint. Yeah. So they're like, "Oh, well, we will refund you the money." But I said to them, "Oh, are you going to come over and sand my deck and repaint it?" You sold me the wrong paint. And so let's really look at what's really going on. So if you were to take all the weight loss solutions and all the things that you can look up, basically there's like 4 different categories of why weight loss fails. So we've got the first is this typical diet mentality, what you've been trained to. So it's saying, okay, you need to go on a diet, control that connection, right? Of overriding your hunger, ignoring cravings, distrust your body, be good at all costs. Food becomes a struggle, becomes something to manage and to respond to. The body becomes an obstacle and not a partner. So now we have this like constant battle, and there's this noise and power struggles. And if you've ever fought with a toddler, it's not a good idea. And that's what we've been doing. And then we have like this binge eating, and it's like a constant battle. Okay. The second big theme of diets and why they're such a hard, why they are so hard to get the results that we want. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure I was recording. Is that we have this idea. It's like, you know what? Short-term pain for long-term pain. So the diets are built around like 30 days or 6 weeks. Just get through this phase. Like this, they reward that white knuckling and that deprivation, and they call it success. Now, the cost of this is when motivation drops, because it always does. Motivation is like the little fuse on a bomb. It doesn't, it's not meant to last long. It's not the slow burn. Shame fills up those gaps, and you failed instead of this was never sustainable. So, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, but when I decided, I'll tell my story. When I decided to lose weight for the last time, I was determined. I said, I'm never going to do anything that's not sustainable. So I knew I wasn't going to rely on exercise. I knew I wasn't ever going to measure food, get out a scale. I knew I wasn't going to do it, write down my food. I just knew I wasn't going to do that. So in the making of my own protocol, I implemented tips and strategies in there that I just knew. I was like, I'm not going to measure food, so I'm not going to use that as a tool. Okay, so I wanted sustainable. So how you lose the weight is how you're going to keep it off. Okay, the third big challenge for why diets always fail is that we look at food as a moral test. So diet mentality sorts food into good or bad, clean and dirty, allowed or forbidden, right? Eating becomes a reflection of your worth. And guilt-driven eating, secret eating, and all or nothing cycles. I just coached a client on that today, where she's 67 years old, and she said, I'm going to be really good. And then next thing she knows, she was procrastinating some paperwork. And so she made a deal with herself that if she did the paperwork, she could get a piece of chocolate. And when I was coaching her, I said, do you realize that you're treating yourself like a child? And right, using food. And she talked about how her mom was always heavy, and that how her mom used food to manipulate and all these things. And so we're really going back and looking at how food was modeled to her and how she's going to change. And several of the other ladies on the call, they really resonated with that and said, I need to do the same thing. Okay, the fourth lie of diets is that weight loss as the fix for everything. So this is when you say, once I lose weight, then I'll feel confident. Once I'm smaller, then I'll feel calmer. Once I'm more disciplined, I'll be okay. So the cost of this is the emotional need gets postponed instead of met, and then food quietly becomes the regulator. So how many of us are living on pause because how could we possibly enjoy our life or feel good about ourselves if we don't weigh a certain amount? And then the fifth trap of weight loss is that our nervous system gets ignored entirely. Now, remember, our nervous system, well, I don't know if you remember, but so we have the sympathetic nervous system, which is our lower brain that is always scanning for danger. In fact, our lower brain, we can call it system 1, is always looking for danger 5 times more than for safety. Right? So if there's a grizzly bear or a rainbow outside your door, you're going to definitely pay a lot of attention to the grizzly bear because that is imminent danger. And that's our lower brain, okay? So our parasympathetic nervous system, which is like our CEO, our higher brain, it's like the parachute. It slows everything down. We're able to think about our thinking. We're able to see what's really, really important, and we're able to make those informed decisions. So the nervous system gets entirely ignored, that this is actually what our brain is 5 times more likely to look for danger. And that diet mentality assumes that everyone has equal capacity for restraint, that stress, trauma, hormones, and exhaustion don't matter. And if it's hard, you're weak. So then the cost of that is women blame themselves for biological and emotional realities. They're like, if I was smarter, if I was better, if I could be, right? And then we just beat ourselves up, and it just feeds that terrible cycle over and over and over. And then nothing changes. Okay. So the problem is time is running out. So if you are here, you're probably between 45 to 80. And, we have these really ingrained habits we don't even realize we're doing. And so we're running on really unhealthy autopilot, and that's not serving us. And so I am so happy that you're here, because finally we are getting some like real light on the situation, and we're not fumbling in the dark. So it makes sense that weight loss is hard. So we feel hopeless because we've tried so many diets in the past. We feel frustrated. We've heard so many messages. Just like 5 minutes of scrolling on Instagram goes from don't eat meat to only eat meat to don't even eat, right? Go 72 hours, go 48 hours, go 5 days without eating. And we have this whole spectrum of all these diets, all these doctors, all these experts telling us what to do. It's so overwhelming. And then we can feel discouraged because we try something and it goes well for a while, and then we fall off the rails, and it's confusing. There's so many different messages, like I said, disheartening. You have all these great intentions. You've tried so hard. You've invested so much, and you're not getting the results. So I want you to ask yourself, how does this cycle resonate with you? So you try a diet, you get full of hope. You read the testimonials. Maybe you do a thing on Pinterest and you see all these people that have had all the success. Then you exhaust yourself trying because you're like, okay, I got to keep up. I got to do this thing. And then you get burned out. And so it doesn't work anymore. But then what happens? You just gain a whole bunch more weight. And now you're sick of your body and you're like, I got to do something. And so this is our yo-yo dieting cycle. And so as you throw spaghetti at the wall, right, of saying like, does this work? What's actually going to work? I don't know. The spaghetti isn't sticking because you're throwing it, not because you're throwing it at the wrong wall. It's because you're taking the wrong approach. You're saying that everyone else knows more about you than you. And the truth is, you know the most about yourself, but you don't trust yourself. And the problem is you are a good, capable woman, and you have done a lot of amazing things in your life, but diets don't work because you haven't allowed yourself to learn the actual basics and of what is required for permanent weight loss. A diet, by the way, they were meant to be a temporary fix. So if you were going in for a surgery, for example, and you had to lose like 20 pounds immediately, that's why they actually created diets. So they were always meant to be a short-term fix. So they weren't meant to be over like a lifetime sustainable. Diets ignore that emotional eating. So they don't address those emotional issues. They don't address your relationship with food. I'm actually flying to Calgary tomorrow to take care of my dad. He's going into a memory unit. This is nothing I ever thought I would be doing. And it's really, really challenging to watch my dad. He is still my dad, but like, he's not him, right? This is not him. And, I'm going to be with three of my siblings. There'll be 4 of us. And, I don't have to worry about me overeating. In the past, we would have gotten pizza. We would have just like milkshakes. just to try to like sedate or to take out the discomfort of the whole situation. It's really going to be a challenge. And but because I've done this work, I don't have that same worry. But in the past, I for sure would have. We would have brought our favorite foods in, and just to kind of not feel so much emotion. Now, diets don't deprogram diet culture. So I grew up in the 80s and 90s. The food pyramid, that, licorice was, it was fat free. That's what they said. But we know that's different, right? Cheetos, even though they have no fat, they're full of sugar, and sugar turns into fat very quickly. And so, and then I lived through the whole like fat free, like let's, you can have sour cream, but you don't want to have the fat, right? And so there was so much confusion and so much of the messaging of diet culture. Like if you are not skinny, if you don't look a certain way, then you are not acceptable. And so there's a lot of like internalized rules, moralizing food, body distrust. And so unless you actually look at all of that, you can't change. The fourth failure of diets is this idea of treating your body when you were 25 differently than expecting that you're going to get different. So how you lost weight at 25 is not how you're going to lose weight at 45, 55, and 65. We no longer have that that regular estrogen and progesterone. We don't have that communication with our reproductive system and our brain. Our brains actually function off of estrogen. And so as we go through this shift of not getting this regular estrogen for the first 2 weeks of a cycle that we used to have, our brain has to now get estrogen from other sources and other ways. And so we have this physical change, and we have to be willing to go through it and see. And so learning how to increase our protein, learning how to eat foods that give us estrogen, maybe doing hormone replacement therapy, looking at where the weight is distributed. So if we're having visceral fat around our organs instead of the subcutaneous, and how dangerous that can be. If we are not educating ourselves and looking at this shift in biology, then we're going to be at a great disadvantage. So as we look at this problem that we have this common culture understanding that you need to just go to some expert. They'll just tell you what to do. And if you just follow their rules, you'll be fine. That's a lie. And I've just shown you why it doesn't work. And so you say, okay, Dara, well, thank you for letting me know it's a broken system, but what do I do instead? And that's where, as a life coach, I am so happy that you're here, because I'm here to show you that weight loss is a symptom of us not looking at what's really going on. So I'm going to give you an example of that. So if you broke your arm, so you've fallen, this happened to my daughter when she was 5 or 6. I think she was 5. She was playing on the playground and she fell. And, pardon me, I didn't know it was broken. I knew she hurt it. I knew she was in a lot of pain. She was crying. She was uncomfortable. These really nice people came and brought some ice and a pop for her. And we drove home, and we went to the store to get an ice pack, actually, and a few other things. I said, can you hold this? And she's like, no, Mom, I'm the wrong girl for the job. I can't hold anything. And she was like in a lot of pain and everything. And so, of course, took her to the doctor, got an x-ray, and they reset it. But imagine that she just said, oh, I'm in so much pain and I'm really uncomfortable. And all I could do is to say, okay, dear, well, here's some Tylenol. Does that feel better? And so she gets some temporary relief. But if I didn't take her to the doctor, if I didn't go get the x-ray and we didn't set it, then her whole life, it would be in pain and it wouldn't work properly any longer. And so this is what we're doing. We're saying, I don't want to feel my feelings. I don't know how to feel my feelings. In fact, when I was a kid, I was taught if you're crying, you go to your room. If you were crying, your parent would say something like, "Oh, I'll give you something to cry about," right? It was never validated. And so emotions felt dangerous. And so instead of feeling the emotions and letting them happen, we would distract ourselves with food, with watching TV, with now we have our phones. Some people distract themselves with gambling, alcohol, pornography, shopping, binge watching, Netflix. So these are all survival, these are all strategies to avoid feeling feelings. They're called buffers. And so if you keep buffering by turning to food instead of feeling your feelings, you're going to gain weight and you're going to have a hard time taking that weight off. So I have a solution. Now, I myself have lost 55 pounds. I got a life coach in 2018, and in 2019, I lost approximately 45 pounds. And since then, I've lost now 55 pounds. It's incredible. I actually weigh like 15 pounds less now than I did when I got married. And when I got married, I thought I was in top shape. And the way that I've done it is by creating this structure that encompasses the science, weight loss science, and the mental health, and how our body is connected and how it's working. So we no longer have to feel afraid of feelings and afraid. So the first pillar is weight loss science is simple. So it's not mysterious. We don't need to have a PhD. I used to teach grade 5 and 6. I would take big, complicated science concepts and break them down into the most essential. That is what I do for weight loss. So now we don't have to feel like we have to take lab tests and all of that. We can just know these are the hormones. This is what's happening. This is calories. We just keep it so simple. So now we can feel more confident in the choices of when we eat, what we eat, and it just makes life so much more free. Now, the second pillar is I want you to learn how to create your own eating plan, but not only how to plan your own food, but how to troubleshoot it. So, yeah, I'm going to eat this thing and I'm going to eat this thing. And then I'm going to look at, oh, how did that go? Is that working for me or not? And so we're not having to always have an expert tell us what to do, when to do, and how to do it. But we're learning what is working for us. And so now we have all of our power. It's amazing. The third pillar is how to feel your feelings instead of, that's right, shopping, eating, binge watching, mindlessly eating popcorn, whatever that is, we don't have to try to resist urges. We can process them. We're not afraid of food. We're not trying to control ourselves all the time. The fourth pillar is a very interesting concept because how many of us feel like I'm not good enough and always feeling like we have to prove ourselves to blame. It's like, oh, I can't lose weight. It's menopause. I just had a client join today actually, and she has gained 25 pounds in the last year. And she was talking to me and she's like, I think it's menopause. And I was like, nope. It's you not working through stress. It's you not owning what's really going on inside. And so I'm just so thrilled that she joined. She's going to learn all these tools. It's awesome. Okay, the fifth pillar is learning how to build self-confidence. A lot of people say you're either born with it or you're not. No, everyone has to learn self-confidence. So confidence comes from keeping your promises. Your self-trust changes behavior, and I remember the first time I said to myself, could I really be one of those people that don't eat candy at Halloween? Could I really be one of those people that doesn't overeat at the dinner table? Could I really be one of those people that doesn't snack throughout the day to manage to kind of like keep the anxiety down? So these pillars aren't a plan, they're a foundation. So if knowing was enough, this would already be solved. So our society, we have more knowledge at our fingertips than we ever have. And we also have more anxiety, depression, mental health issues than we ever have had because we have less connection, we have less knowing, we have less calm, we have a lot more frantic energy. Okay. So why is weight loss hard? Well, we know what we should eat, but learning to implement those like not going to the chocolate or the popcorn, why is that so hard? Why do we, those chips when we're at the store or that chocolate bar? What is it? Because we have our emotional intelligence is so low. So we don't know how to deal with boredom or confusion or frustration or uncertainty or anger or shame or even being happy, joyful, lonely. What about transitions or nostalgia? We just came off of Christmas. And it was so interesting. This is the first Christmas, I think, almost in my life that we didn't have this one dessert. Didn't miss it. So the problem is diets don't work long term. So if we don't weed the garden, if we don't get the roots out, this is going to keep growing. So if we don't see what's really going on, we're going to be in trouble. So weight loss treats weight as the problem. Traditional weight loss treats them as a problem instead of what it really is. It's a symptom. Okay. So weight gain is a symptom. It's us turning to food. It's an unhealthy coping strategy. And so we overeat because it's emotional. Today in my group call, I said with boldness that food only solves one problem, and it's fueling our bodies. We could argue that food nurtures others, and that's what it does. But that's part of, as a mother or as a nurturing person, it's in my nature to want to make food for other humans so that they can have energy, they can grow. All right. That's the only thing. So like this weekend when I go to help my siblings move my dad into that new unit, no amount of pizza, no amount of milkshakes, no amount of French fries will ever solve this for the sadness of watching my father change. It will never solve that problem. Gas solves the problem of a car moving. My airplane ticket solves the problem of getting to Calgary and helping my family. Food will never solve that. Okay? You've been solving a feelings problem with food solutions. So real change requires a different foundation. And this foundation is learning how to feel your feelings. So again, knowing the pillars isn't the same as living them. Now, I created these pillars. I've worked with hundreds, if not thousands of women. And that is why I'm a life coach. Because each one of us is unique and different. We all have our own food stories. We all have our own history. We all have our own, I would even go so far as to say, trauma with food. How did you get approval in your family? What were the ways that you were taught to cope? These are all situations. So we can't just keep using other people's strategies to help us. We have to be willing to look at our relationship with food. So I have this process, and these are some of the ladies in my program who I just love so much. And it's learning how to lose weight from the inside out. And I don't want you to do a fresh start. I actually want you to look at all the times, all the different approaches, all the different ways that you've lost weight in the past. Why haven't they been sustainable? What has it been that has you gaining the weight again? So we need to build a foundation. Weight loss is not a math formula. It is it can be messy because we're finally learning how to feel instead of avoid. So I'm not teaching anyone a diet. I'm not giving anyone a meal plan. I definitely have recommendations of food that you can try. I have some guidelines of food that you should eat. I talk a lot about hunger. So this is not something you do for 30 days and never and abandon it. And this is you're definitely going to learn every day. You're going to learn information, daily information. It's a daily practice. You're going to get live coaching. You're going to get a lot of help. But you don't need to be perfect. You just need to be willing to try. So you're going to get, a whole set of tools. So just like with quilting, you have, once you have the right amount of tools, like a rotary cutter and rulers, and then you learn the basics of like a 1/4 inch seam, how to press, all of those things, you can make any quilt you want. So it's the same thing with life coaching tools. So I do have an early bird rate. Oh, pardon me. Now, this is Susan. And when she started learning these 5 pillars, it's so fun. Now, with Susan, this is her before coaching. I think she's lost around 70 to 80 pounds. So this was her in 2021. So I think we started working together in 2020. Maybe this was 2022, actually. She's been to every retreat I've done. This was second retreat I did. And then this is her in 2025. So you're going to see she's been able to maintain that weight loss. Here's Lori. So not only is she losing weight, but she's doing really cool things like going to QuiltCon and making connections with people. This is Sue. Now she can actually go skating with her granddaughter. She just got a hip replacement and it's going so much better. Here's Deb, who has, she was basically at rock bottom, and she saw a picture of herself with her granddaughter sitting on her lap, and she looked at herself and thought, how did I get myself here? How is that even me? And so that what spurred her to work with me, and she has now lost 80 pounds, and it's just been an amazing journey for her to see what a difference it is. So her body, she has so much more energy. She just had her granddaughters come for a couple days around Christmas, and they went swimming every day. And she said to me, I would never have gone swimming with them. And she was right there with them, swimming and totally active at 72. Here's Claudia, and one of the challenges is that, however we grew up, we all have different challenges growing up. And her grandparents' house was the place where she felt the most safe, and her grandpa was a baker. And so one of her things to do was to go to the baked goods, and it reminded her of those happy emotions. And so we have to work through those emotions so that you can change the way that you approach food. Now, to start 2026 off right, you learn what is actually required for weight loss. We need to build our emotional intelligence. We need to be able to feel our feelings. So as we do that, we have this reserve. We have this ability to feel instead of react. So if you've tried the shots, if you've tried all the things, I get it. I do have a money back guarantee. I'm here to help support you, because if we always do what you've always done, you always get what you always got. And so in this 30 days, I'm going to be teaching you the 5 pillars. Every day you will get a daily video, and you will start to understand what's really going on. And you will get this 90-day workbook mailed to you. And and it will help you. You can also, as soon as you join, you can get the PDF of that. But they're practice prompts, habit trackers, troubleshooting checkpoints. And so what you're going to get is to build this foundation where I get to hold your hand and help you during office hours, and you'll really learn what tools are required and then master those tools. So if you join, you will get the office hours, which is just so much support and so much help. It has been such a game changer to have these coaching calls, the support where you can ask me any questions. You also get the menopause eating guide, and you get 2 years access of this. Now, I want you to imagine now that you're getting, so just like with, if you had, if you didn't have a rotary cutter, and if you didn't have a good iron, and you didn't have a rotary, like a self-healing mat, you're trying to make this quilt with all these terrible tools, it's not going to look very good. You're not going to get a great result. But once you start using these tools, pardon me, you start seeing, oh, I understand now. So after the first week, you can say, oh, I understand why I keep getting stuck. So your brain stops blaming you and the shame starts to lift. And then after 2 weeks of spending this time together, you start rewiring habits. And so maybe you're not eating ice cream every night. Maybe you're not feeling deprived all the time. Maybe imagine what would happen by the third week. You're at the dessert table. Maybe you're at a family dinner or the guild, and someone offers you something and you don't panic. You just say no. You don't feel guilty. You feel proud. And then week 4, you realize you haven't been obsessing about food. And you realize, oh, I have so much more space in my brain. It's a huge win. So at 30 days, you have more confidence at the grocery store, no more second guessing. You have the ability to stop evening snacking or white knuckling. You have a weight loss goal you actually believe you can keep, and you have skills to handle stress, loneliness, and boredom without food. You have more of a calm brain that supports you instead of sabotaging you. And so this is what other women have said. So, I thought I was too old to change. What matters more is I don't live in my head anymore. Susan says, I've lost this weight and kept it off. I'm not afraid of holidays or anniversaries. Or Deidre says, she used to be afraid of the candy jar. And now she doesn't have to, she can walk past it. And then, they're starting to trust themselves. Like, what would be the difference if that happened for you? So there's some commonly asked questions that I'm going to address, and then you can comment, you can email me or ask any questions. So if you think I already know this, well, chances are you don't. We weren't really taught our emotions. We weren't really taught what was going on, how to have good conflict resolution with ourselves. I'm worried I wouldn't follow through. I get it. There's times where I make a goal and I don't follow through. But when you start learning what's really going on, one of the tools that helped me more that I didn't expect was curiosity and compassion. I was really surprised at what powerful tools they are. I had so much more compassion. I would say to myself, oh, Dara, this is hard. I know when you turn to ice cream in the middle of the day to kind of get that pressure break, I can see why this is hard for you, because that was such a pattern. I didn't even realize I was doing it. So you're going to, and that's okay. We're going to address it. We don't always follow through, but we're going to start learning tools to do that. I failed so many times. I don't trust myself. Of course, that makes sense. When you first learn to any skill, if you're just learning, it's going to take time. I don't have time. Well, this one is a really interesting one because chances are you've been wasting a lot of time. You've been buffering a lot. And I'm not saying that to be a jerk. I'm just calling you out because, if you checked your screen time, how much time do you think you actually are spending on social media? How much time do you think you're spending on YouTube researching right? How much time are you spending consuming versus doing? And the more that you use these tools, the more you're going to get your time back. This next one is, what if it doesn't work for me? Well, guess what? Everyone has a brain. Everyone has mental health, right? We have a brain, so we have mental health. We have a body, so we have physical health. So the more tools that you can teach your brain, the more success you're going to have. This next objection, I'm dealing with menopause, hormones, stress. Will this still help? 100%. Because the more you know, the better you can be. And so as you learn about what's happening inside your body for menopause, as you learn what's happening in your nervous system, you're what are those signs for stress, you can be more supportive to yourself. Another question is, the price feels like a lot. Yeah, I respect that. So I would ask you, what is the cost of you keep starting over? And what is the cost of your mental health and your physical health and the quality of your life? So, and if you're not building that foundation to rebuild again, what's happening, right? So I just want you to think about, what is it costing you to not take a stand? What is it costing you to stay in the body that you are in and not shifting it? So I love looking at these pictures of Susan. I love seeing this physical representation of so many of the emotional issues that she's worked through, and just her quality of life now compared to what it was before. And what would it mean for you, for your own peace of mind, your own relationships, and your own happiness? Because at the end of the day, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And that is why I'm committed to being a life coach and helping women really look at, I'm a pretty clever person. I'm pretty smart. I figured out a lot of things, but why is this such a problem for me? And the more that we can do this work, the more insight you have, and you truly can change. And I know it because I see it every day. But just like when you brush your teeth or do laundry, it is something you have to keep up with. And that's why my program, so if you want to come for the 30 days, amazing. And then you have the option, if you really love it, and if it's really resonating with you, you can join me in my program, which what you pay for this 30 days will actually go towards the program. So it's an amazing bonus. If you have any questions whatsoever, I'm here to help you. I'm so happy that I could spend this time with you. And as always, please ask me any questions. I know that as you build these foundational steps, that you can truly create whatever life you want. I never imagined in my wildest years that this would be my body and my experience at 52 in such a, I have so much energy and have so much confidence. And I want that for all of you. All right, take care.